Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Captain CA here, and I'm fresh back. I mean, today from Texas. As you can see, we had a great trip. But it begs the question when you go to new waters, what is the equation that puts you on the path to success to catch fish consistently with artificial lures? I mean, rank them in order. I'm going to let you know what they are right now. Let's go inside and talk about it. All right, let's talk about breaking down an equation that regardless where you might target fish, Florida, North Carolina, Texas, as I just left, where you can come up with a theorem that works everywhere to catch fish. And I'll tell you, based off what I know, not only as a traveling television host, but also as a former tournament angler and just a guy that has had the opportunity over the last going on 4 decades of fishing a lot of places, from New York all the way down the East Coast and all the way over to South Padre Island, Texas, and even in the Caribbean. And that 3-part equation for consistently figuring it out is going to be, number one, you have to figure out or master the lure speed and the action. Number one, that is the most important thing to understand. Understand that these fish are going to respond perfectly to the absolute best presentation that you can provide them. If you do something that is too static or too erratic, it never works. And you're like, well, what do you mean? Well, many of us either work the baits too fast, where they're working over the top of fish maybe. We're just trying to cover too much water and we're just working too quickly, and we never really get the right bite. Or we're working fish too statically, where we don't change the tempo of the bait enough to deliver a strike. And you see this a lot when you have fish follow a lure almost back to the boat consistently, but they never commit. You're like, maybe it's the color, maybe it's this. And then they throw out there again and they'll fish a little while and they get another follow or a boil. They just never figure it out. And that's lots of times because you have to experiment with that presentation and that lure speed. So sometimes they want it kind of like slow hopped. Sometimes they want a static swim with a little kick in it every once in a while. Sometimes they want it work fast or erratically. Sometimes they do want that steady retrieve. But you have to be willing to experiment to figure that out. There's not one that works all through the day. Rarely do they do that way. I mean, it's a lot easier for you to take a novice angler who doesn't have a lot of experience on the water and just tell them, just go throw this paddle tail. Throw a paddle tail out there and reel it back, and something good will eventually happen. And yes, something happens good every once in a while, but not consistently. It's the angler that understands that lure speed, understanding not to work it too fast or not to work it enough to create that little bit of consistency, but of that erratic move every once in a while, or change in direction, or throw at a zone from a couple of different angles, not the same angle all the time. That is the experienced angler that consistently catches fish. That is bar one over every other rule, number one in my book. Number two would be picking the right size lure or profile that they're expecting to see where they are. Sometimes that is match the hatch, but lots of times it doesn't have to be match the hatch, and I'll tell you why. So I'm out in Texas, I'm fishing with two different guides, Captain William Townsend, Captain Dylan Mendoza. And we fished two areas that weren't far from each other, and the fish, for the most part, were kind of acting the same. But because I fished with one before the other, I had already figured out what the presentation had to be and what the size of the bait had to be. They would not take anything that was longer than 3 inches long. They just didn't want any bait. I tried a ton of stuff in that 4 and 5 inch size and they would never eat it. They wanted something that was about 2.5 to maybe 3.5 inches long, maybe. And I got a lot of refusals on 3.5. So it had to be that small lure to get them to really do it. So the size mattered a lot. The other thing that mattered a lot was working the bait not statically, because I tried to power fish in that wind and it did not work. I don't even think I got one lure to work for me, throwing it out and reeling it back, throwing it out and reeling it back. I think I got maybe one bite doing that. Most of the stuff was like reeling, let it fall, reel, let it fall, twitch, 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 reel, let it fall. Let it sit for like 3 or 4 seconds, then pick it up and roll again. And that was how we were catching fish. Lure speed and presentation, size and profile. The profile that they wanted was something crustacean-like. Did I throw always a shrimp? No. I threw these beastie bugs, okay? I threw the Z-Man Easy shrimp. I threw the big TRD that I cut down to be about 3.5 inches long. All three of those lures worked well. Anytime I went to a 4-inch bait or a paddle tail, never worked, just would not work. And a lot of it just had to do with giving them something that they were looking for. And they were looking for shrimp in the marsh, because I could see shrimp in, even as windy as it was, I could see the shrimp popping along the grass edges. And that's the only thing they were interested in. So they wanted that slow reel, fall. Slow reel, fall. Or with the bugs, I would just reel it to a hole, drop it, hop, 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 reel it a little bit, drop it, hop, 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 and it just caught fish. It was painful to fish that methodical in those types of winds, especially when we're under the pressure of trying to get a television show shot. So it was tough. But by far and away, those were the most two important elements to our success. And I'll tell you why. Because the colors that Dylan told me to throw, Captain Dylan, and the colors that Captain William told me to throw were two different colors. The other guy that I called when I was headed out there told me to throw colors different from the two colors I threw with each of them, which makes me share with you the fact that I believe color is always the third consideration. It's not number one. It's never even close. All the years that I tournament fished, it was fun when you would network with a couple of teams to hear, well, I catch them on this, and I caught them on that. And even when I'm teaching at FlatsClass University, the changes that my anglers, my members, they're catching fish on different baits. You know, if it's not chartreuse, it ain't no use. Or if it's not white, it's not the right lure. If it's, I've got to throw this color, I've got to go throw that color. And the reality is color, when you're fishing that 1 foot to 4 foot depth, in most clear water situations where you have decent daytime lighting, it's not gonna matter that much. It's not gonna matter as much as you think it's gonna matter. The size of the lure and the lure speed and action is way more important, because all those colors are gonna be in play. I'm gonna just tell you, even here on my coast where we have gin clear water, a decent fishery, I will listen to my contemporaries, my fellow guides, and they're like, hey, we catch them on night glow. That's how we catch our snook here. You got to use a 5.5 night glow, DOA, blah, 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 blah. And that's what they have confidence in, because one of the guides that was looked up to here for years, that was his favorite lure and color to throw. And then everyone below him kind of followed suit, and they still throw that color, and it is one of the best-selling colors at sodiumusa.com. But I'm going to tell you right now that I go to those same zones and catch those snook on Houdini like every day, which looks nothing like night glow. I throw it in a smaller profile. Doesn't matter. So it's almost the same length. It's 6 inches. It's just thinner. It's the darters. And it works great because it has that action. It's the action that triggers that bite. It's not the color. It's the size and the action that trigger that bite. So when you're looking at color, and I know a lot of you are influenced by guys like me, they're like, well, you gotta buy this color. And if I tell enough people to go buy, bubble gum or go buy dark and stormy, and I've got a few thousand people that follow this channel out there using it, many of them are going to start catching fish on them just by the law of averages. And then they're going to share, oh, Captain CA told me to throw this color and I'm catching fish on it. And that guy gains confidence because this guy's got confidence in it. Next thing you know, that's not how it is at all. I'm at the risk of turning everyone off, and I'm a guy that promotes and does videos on colored lures, and it is a factor. I'm not saying it's not a factor. I'm just saying it's not as big a factor as the other two factors. It is definitely not the factor. So if there's a group that's throwing one color all the time and someone's catching fish on it here and there, it's naturally going to build the confidence with the rest of them. The only reason you're catching it on that color is because you throw that color all the time. That's what it really comes down to. Pink. I love pink. I've done videos on pink. I like throwing pink on those fall through winter days where we have lots of darker days, and it's just a great bait. But it's mostly because it has this reflective silver in it as well. I throw another one called Cotton Candy, which is this color here, and I probably got a line on it, but those colors work fantastic for trout at a certain time of year. But it's not the number one. The number one thing is it the right size? Is it working at the right tempo? You always gotta think that. I mean, lots of times I'll have a client throwing one darker color, one's throwing a lighter color, they're both catching fish. I can tell you personally, you can pick your favorite color and you could be fishing with me and you might catch a fish, maybe 2 or 3, but if I figure out the right lure speed and action and I have the right size, it won't matter what color. I could pick black, like we call it yoga pants, Brian Latimer's color. I could pick purple demon. I could pick green pumpkin. It won't matter what color I pick. I'm gonna catch just as many fish as you are, even though you know that's your favorite color in your favorite spot. It just works that way. So don't get so laser focused and tunnel vision thinking, I gotta throw this color or I gotta throw that color. It's not really as important. It's nice to have a variety of colors, but I'm just telling you, a lot of those colors are for you, not for the fish. The fish tune in to action, speed, and size. That's what they do. And then that color would definitely be the third consideration. That is after you figure out where the fish are in the zone. And that is another lesson. Hopefully you like what we're teaching here at FlatsClass YouTube. If you do, help us trend, give us that thumbs up and hit that subscription button. It's my job to make all of you better anglers. And if you so inclined to want to drill down even more, do some more advanced stuff where we put courses together, you should come over to FlatsClassUniversity.com. We have some excellent stuff over there, and we add every month. We're adding new stuff. We give you lures. We teach you how to fish those lures in certain zones, certain times of year where they're very effective. So if you're looking for something a little bit more advanced, a little bit more of a drill down into inshore fishing, go check out FlatsClassUniversity.com. All right, until next time, you guys keep those rods bent, and I'll keep those videos coming.